Hi there. In this video, I'm going to show you how to create an assignment request. So from the main dashboard, we'll click on Flow and then click on Requests. Now we can see some of our other assignment requests that are already there. So to create a new request, we'll click on Create Request. And this will start the assignment request wizard. So from the top here, we can see our HCO. Then we will choose our facility from the dropdown. Now we can choose multiple facilities if we have a need at those locations, but we'll just choose one facility for this demo. Next, we'll select the specialty. We'll say anesthesiology. The department name is not required, but if you know your department name, it's always helpful to add that. And one thing I wanted to mention, when you see the red star, that does mean that it is required. So we'll select our coverage reason, and this information is important for your organization for reports and analytics. So we'll say maternity, paternity. So next we will choose how many providers requested. The reason we allow you to select more than one is, say for instance, you have a need that is going to cover a long period of time, that one provider will most likely not be able to cover all shifts. So by choosing more than one provider, you are more likely to fill all of your shifts. So next we have the start date, and you can add the date or select ASAP. Now please keep in mind your organization's credentialing timeframes. Filling the position as soon as possible is nice, but the time frame is also relative to whether you are looking for a new provider or for one who has previously worked at your facility. Next, we will select the end date, and you can select ongoing if this assignment will continue further out than the projected end date. Next, we can choose our physician type from the dropdown. And then the provider title, which is not required, but if you do have that information, we can say whether it's MD or DO. Then we have the request type. We'll choose locum tenens. We will then add the coverage type. Notice that if you select anything that includes call, an additional page is added. So when I click on no call, that goes away. Now call is added, since we need additional information regarding call. We will then choose our EMR system. Just choose Cerner. We then have the decision date, which is optional. However, it can be helpful to give your vendors an idea of when a decision will be made. Will facility accept multiple providers allows you to accept additional bids if you feel you will need more than one provider to fill your scheduling needs. So we will say yes. Now we have practice settings, which you'll notice when we click on, additional questions will be asked depending on which one you select. And you can select multiple. We will just say outpatient, select yes, yes. Now you'll notice patients per shifts and beds in department is required. If you don't have the exact number, do your best, and then you can always come back and edit those. So we'll just put some numbers in for now. Say yes to admissions required, yes to stroke certified, and then with this assignment, we'll say there is no rounding. At this point, we can either save the draft or we can click on next step. Saving the draft will allow you to come back so you don't lose any of this information that you have added. We'll click on next step. This takes us to the practice page. So our first question is about physicians being board certified. So we'll say yes, and then we will say that they have to be certified. This next question is regarding your licensing requirements for bids. If you only want bids from providers who are already licensed for your state, you will select this first option. Please note that selecting this choice may significantly reduce your pool of candidates. This selection will allow bids from providers who are licensed in your state or have an IMLC license. Selecting this option does have some limitations, but is more likely to increase your pool of candidates than selecting number 1. This last selection, none, gives you the largest pool of candidates, but includes candidates who are not yet licensed in your state, significantly impacting their time to start. Then we'll go ahead and answer our reimbursement question. For estimated credentialing time frame, we'll say 60 days. We'll come over to the side, say no fellowship. And then in this area, we can go through and manually select which certifications will be required. If we do select other, we then have a text field where we can add that information. Select no. Next, we can go through trauma level, the PEDS level of the facility. Once again, with these, if you don't know the numbers, do your best, and then you can always come back and adjust those numbers correctly. Insurance provided by vendor, no supervision, and no resident or teaching. Next, we have the travel details. In the nearest airport section, this is helpful for the provider to know the best route to take to arrive at your facility, especially if you're in a rural location. Sometimes it is also helpful to specify which airlines fly into the nearest airport. So I'll put down JFK, and then as far as an airline carrier, I'll put Delta. With lodging recommendations, there may be times when a facility has an agreement for a discounted rate at a local hotel. This is where you could put that information. So for this, we'll just put in Marriott. At this point, we can either click on Save Draft or Next Step. And this brings us to the call details page. Now, if we look back on the coverage page, we'll remember we selected call only. That's why we need to fill out this information on call. So we'll go ahead, say both, in-house, and we'll just put in some information here. Once again, these are all required, so do your best in filling these out, and if you're not sure, you can always come back and fix them. We will now click on Next Step, and this brings us to our specialty page. This page is specific to the specialty we selected on the coverage page, so we can just go through here. If we select all on the top, that'll put yes by all of them, and then we can go through and change those as needed. We'll add the number of operating rooms, and then we have our specialty skills where we can go through and do required, preferred, or not required. Once again, at the top, if you select all, you can then go through and adjust as needed. We'll then click Next Step. This brings us to the Scheduling Needs page. This is where you can input all of your shifts, making it easier for vendors to check availability with their providers. To add your scheduling needs, we'll click on Create New Scheduling Needs. This is all information from the first page. So our facility, you'll see here, it's the only one we selected, so it's the only one we can choose. Same with our specialty. And then number of providers. So the number of providers in this box is specific to this shift. Typically, you will only have one provider per shift. On an earlier page, we mentioned allowing multiple providers for the entire assignment, but don't confuse assignment with shift. Once again, this is specifically asking how many providers for this shift. So we'll keep it at 1. We'll enter the shift type, which we'll do regular. And then we will put in our shift start with its time, say 7 o'clock. And then we can say the shift ends on that same day at 8 p.m. The summary is always helpful just to make sure we're putting in the right amount of hours. So now we've created a shift for one day. One option, if we have a repeating schedule, say for example, it's a Monday through Friday shift, we can click Monday through Friday. from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And then all we need to do is add the end date of the assignment. So we'll say the assignment ends on the 24th of May. So now we've confirmed our summary, 13 hours per day, Monday through Friday. We will need to go back up to the top and give this a title since it is going to create all of those shifts for us. So we'll just use a name that's easy for us to remember. We'll say anesthesiology, Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. through 8 p.m. We'll just click submit since we're not creating any more shifts. And now we can see it has created all of these shifts for us. If there are any shifts that we want to get rid of, we can come over here and click on remove. Now that our shifts are entered, we can click save draft or next step. Now we do recommend at this point you save your draft. In the event that you leave this page without saving, the shifts might not appear in the assignment request. If this does happen, please reach out to your scheduling analyst and they can help move the shifts back into your assignment request. Please do not create the shifts again, as this will create duplicates of those shifts already created. We'll click on next step. This next section has questions that will impact billing insurance, so it is very important to have the correct information when answering these questions. So click yes. And then we will click on next step. In this section, you have the option to upload any documentation you feel would be important for the vendors to know about the job. You can also upload any required documents for your state or facility in this section. So to add documents, I'll just click on the add button, which will bring a pop-up window. And there is the option to drag and drop from another folder. So I can just click on my other folder and then drop it in. And then I'll need to give it a description. Then click upload. Now that file has been added. We could also use the browse and upload feature. And this would allow us to do the same thing by selecting the file and then adding the description. Next, we have the description and other details section. This is the section where you want to put a complete description of what your needs are from the vendors. If you were unable to add the schedule in the scheduling needs section, this is where you can add specific details regarding the type of shift you need covered. Here's a good example of what good details look like. In this next section, you will see the default contacts for the facility. Please update these with any changes so the right individuals are receiving the notifications. We can just choose from the drop-down, and then that's been updated. Finally, in the default attributes section, you can add the cost center. Notice this information isn't required. At this point, we can select Save Draft, or if we're ready, we can hit Submit Recall. A pop-up window will appear with a question that asks if you have a provider in mind for this request. If you select No, it will ask you to select the vendors you would like to receive notifications for this assignment. There are many options on how you can set up your preferred vendors. Please contact your Locumsmart account manager to set this up. If you do have a provider in mind, you can click on Yes, and then find them in the drop-down. We will then choose which vendor we would like, and then we'll click Submit. The request is now open, and the screen will automatically refresh for you to view your new assignment request. We hope you have found this information helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to our live chat team or email support@locumsmart.net. Thank you, and have a great day.